Miller is the founding board member of the Center for Common Ground, executive director of People Demanding Action, founding president of the National Women's Political Caucus of Virginia. And that's not all.
Long.
She's an IT and political director, digital and election strategist. She designs and administers digital phone banks and texting programs, which I know you know something about. From 2013 to 2015, boy, that was a different age. She led the Progressive Roundtable on Capitol Hill, bringing together members of Congress, activists, and nonprofit leaders. Her expertise is in voting rights, climate, and the Equal Rights Amendment. She has successfully advocated for legislation on both the federal and state level, and in 2008 she was the Democratic nominee for the Virginia 4th Congressional District, and I'm sure there's much more to say, but I will leave it at that, and join me in welcoming our guest, Andrea Miller.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Reverend Ben, and thank you, wonderful folks who have gathered here today. I actually have a presentation I made for you. I will put it online and you can go look at it if you want. And I realize there are so many friends and volunteers and people here who are dear to me that I really wanted to just talk to you and not be hidden behind my presentation. So I love you all. Center for Common Ground, we are a family. We love our volunteers. You are very important to us. You have communities in so many of the communities that we serve, where you know each other, you are friends, you worship together, you do activism together, and that is what we are all about, who we are together. So I mentioned it when I first stood up there this morning in this wonderful space. We must reclaim faith and make it about joy, caring, and love. All right? Joy. We were put here to love life and each other. We care about our community, and we care about being inclusive and bringing other people in who want to be a part of our community, who need to be a part of a community. That is who we want to be. And this election is going to be a choice about, are we a community that includes people and loves people? Or are we a community that is taking down a list of people we hate because? No. So I choose the first one. I like joy. I like laughing. I like dancing. I like all those things. And I love people who love those things. And so that is why we do the work that we do. It is not about power. It is about the ability to freely choose. I want to be joyful. I want my faith to sing. I want to love my fellow man just because they're here with us. This is our planet, all of us, not just a couple of rich people. It belongs to all of us. And like anything that we cherish, we must take care of it. All right, so that was the first part. So love, love, and love some more. All right, now, next part, why we do what we do and why we're doing it, where we're doing it. Okay, now, in 2024, we targeted 7 states, starting in Virginia and moving south. So Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Alabama, and I will explain Alabama in a minute, Florida, Georgia, Texas, and we're doing some work in Arizona. All right, now, why those states? With the exception of Arizona, all of the other states that I mentioned have a very large registered voting black population. And unfortunately, like all elections, they're largely being ignored by a political party which shall remain nameless. So no one is talking to those voters. They're not donors. They're not consistent voters. So they're throwaway voters. Those are our people, the people that nobody wants. We love those voters. All right? Now, let's talk about numbers, because I am a computer geek and I love my numbers. So, oh yeah, and the numbers are amazing. All right, now, I said we're working in Georgia. If you listen to the pundits, please don't listen to the pundits. They will give you an ulcer. They're getting paid to get clicks, and they will say whatever they need to say to get clicks. Now, everybody's heard about what's going on in Georgia, right? They are going to hand count the paper ballots. Hand counting paper ballots normally is a good thing. They are doing it to basically slow down the ability to properly announce the winner of the election. Okay, there are lawsuits that are already filed because they have established the Georgia Board of Elections has no ability to tell all their counties that you counted the ballots wrong. That is not what they're there for. So they want to delay certifying the election. All right, now, why are they coming up with every possible thing under the sun? Because they are terrified. The great state of Georgia has 2.5 million registered black voters, or 34% of the registered voters in Georgia are black. And that has struck fear into, do I even dare say they have souls? They don't have hearts, all right. Maybe there's a space where if there was a soul, it would be there, but it has struck fear into whatever that is that they have. They are terrified. And again, that's just black voters. That's not counting Hispanic voters, Native American voters, or Asian American voters. And you've got to love Mr. Robinson and Mr. Trump, who have now added Asian American voters to the people that they hate, blame, whatever it is that they do. So I'm kind of thinking, at the rate they're going, who's going to be left? Well, you know, there's like the 400 billionaires or whatever small number it is. Those are the people they like. So if you're not among the 400, at some point, they're going to be coming for you. So anyway, as I said, 34% of registered voters in the great state of Georgia are black. And we are sending postcards to those registered voters, and we are making phone calls to those registered voters, and we will very shortly be sending text messages to those registered voters. Now, thank you. They had another ploy, plot, and scheme. They've got nothing but ploys, plots, and schemes. When the great state of Alabama, Milliken versus the Alabama Board of Elections, and the Supreme Court, the that Supreme Court said Alabama was racially gerrymandered and Alabama was going to have to redraw her congressional districts. They didn't limit it to Alabama. They said Alabama, North Carolina, Louisiana, and Georgia have to redraw their congressional and state districts. Now, got to give the Georgia legislature credit. They said, we have to draw new majority districts. They didn't say additional. So what they did in Georgia was they did the 80% of black voters shuffle. They moved them all into new districts. So that when people go to the polls in November, the candidates that they're expecting to vote for are not going to be the candidates on their ballot. Yeah, president will, yeah. But because they said they needed new districts, they didn't say additional. New and additional are different emotions. As I said, always thinking, plotting, and scheming. So we did a lot of phone banks, talking to the voters in Georgia. We've got a lot of people on the ground in Georgia that have been working to let the black voters in Georgia know, you're not in the district you probably think you're in. You're actually in a new district. And here are your candidates. And so people have really been responding. They're holding tons of candidate forums in Georgia. And that what really delights me is the people in Georgia are stepping up for Georgia themselves. We are helping, but Georgia is helping herself. All right? Now. How many of you have heard of the Divine Nine? Yeah, sometimes called the D9. Those are the 9 black Greek fraternities and sororities. All right? So in addition to all the postcards that you sent from California, New York, and all the different places where we have postcard teams and volunteers, the Divine Nine, one of our own, Dr. Monica Brown, who is one of the founders of the Cobb County Democracy Center and is now on the board of the Georgia League of Women Voters, cut a plan with the Divine Nine where they are doing 150,000 postcards to their fellow Georgians. And so what you will see, if you go and look at the presentation that I'm going to put online, is you will see the pallets of postcards, what 150,000 postcards looked like, and the photograph she took of the Federal Express tractor trailer that pulled up in front of her house and displaced the cars that were in their garage. So, yes. So, Georgia, they are standing up. And the guys were not about to be undone. So the Prince Hall Mason stepped up. We've got a brand new private label postcard, James Brown, the godfather of soul, who lived in Augusta, Georgia, as a good part of his adult life. We are partnered with them, and we have a James Brown postcard with the artist being Shepard Fairey. Yes. And those are the postcards that the fraternities are using as they are writing to the black men in Georgia. Right. Now, the people in Georgia have assured me black people in Georgia are not voting for you-know-who. Right, and they're not voting for him. They said the big danger would be that the voters would just stay home. Why would the voters stay home? I don't know. 30, 35 years of neglect and being ignored by the groups of people that theoretically should be supporting and welcoming and including them. So that's why we write postcards, to let people know, we know you're there. This, we understand, this is what you want your government to be like. So we're asking you to come out one more time, and let's see if we can get this joyous dancing, we care about our fellow people government that we all want and that we so deserve. So that's the great state of Georgia. We are winning the great state of Georgia. I don't care what anybody says, because Georgia is standing up for herself. It is not just people outside Georgia wanting it for Georgia. It's people in Georgia saying, this could be real. We could make this happen. And they are dancing to the music. So, Georgia. Now, we're going to go east, Alabama. I've had people write to me and say, why are we wasting our time in Alabama? Well, I don't know. In 2017, we won statewide in Alabama because we wrote to the black voters in the Alabama Black Belt, and they showed up and they voted. So Alabama really did draw an additional majority-minority district, congressional district 2. So if any of you have ever spent any time in Alabama, you know the Alabama Black Belt starts at Montgomery, the capital of Alabama, and it goes south to the city of Mobile, and then it stretches west straight through. And that's where CD2 is. CD2 does the western counties and then heads south to Mobile. It is 54% registered black voters. I want Alabama too. The people in Alabama too want Alabama too. They started canvassing 8 weeks ago. All right? And they are postcarding the Divine Nine, and they are making phone calls, and they, through their own local partner, Alabama Forward, which was the group that successfully sued the state of Alabama to get that new district, they have learned how to run their technology, and they are doing it all themselves. Now, we are doing some postcarding with them, but they're doing all the on-the-ground stuff themselves. They're like, we're on the ground, we can go knock on doors. So they're doing it. So that is why we're doing Alabama. We want Alabama Congressional District 2. And then maybe in a couple of years, we can go after Congressional District 5, and then we can just kind of start to spread those districts, because maybe people down there will say, well, why are those people over there so happy? You know, we want to be happy too. Hate is exhausting. Yeah, whereas love, it's fun, it's energizing. You know, we get to dance. You know, you don't see them dancing over there at those other rallies. They're just standing around looking mean and unhappy. You know, who wants to do that? All right, now, Florida. 40 electoral votes. Florida. Woo. All right, now, in Florida, Haitians are eating dogs and cats. They are eating your pets. No, they're eating your pets in Springfield, Ohio. However, there are 300,000 registered Haitian voters in the great state of Florida. I'd like to think that at least a couple of them take issue with the notion that they are eating your pets. I mean, a very dear friend of mine, her daughter made an Instagram post, and she said, My father is from Haiti. We are not eating your cats and dogs. So, also in Florida, they have reproductive freedom on the ballot. All right? In Florida, there are 15% more women than men. Ooh. Well, registered voters. I don't know if the actual population, but registered voters. So I'm going, guys, stay unregistered. Stay home. Yeah. So our work in Florida, we are only talking to the women. All right, now, the other group that sometimes we have a hard time getting them to vote because when they look at the condition of their world, they're like, this is not what we want in the future. So in Florida, we got a little gift. Recreational marijuana is on the ballot. So we've got women, we've got young people, and we've got Haitians going, we are not eating your pets. What is this? What a stupid thing to say. So Florida is looking surprisingly good. All right, now, let's head a little further west. Let's go over to Texas, the great state of Texas. They also have 40 electoral votes. All right, now, in Florida, 40 and 40, that's 80 electoral votes. All right, it's 80 electoral votes. Throw in California's 55. We're halfway on the way. We're looking good. All right, now, in Texas, there's a young man by the name of Colin Allred who is running for Senate. Now, Colin Allred is a black man. People are going, ooh, a person of color running for statewide office in Texas. Texas is a majority minority state already. They just are. They've been a majority minority state for 10 years. Registered voters, majority minority state. If you add the Hispanic voters and the black voters, they got a couple of A and HPI voters down there. They make up the majority of the state of Texas. And as a friend of mine said, Texas is not a red state, it's not a blue state, it's a non-voting state. So I had to add up, send in another 152,000 addresses for Texas. We are going to write to the women of Texas. And again, women in Texas, registered voters, it's about 12% more registered women voters in Texas than men. All right, now I'm going to swing around a little more North Carolina. Mark Robinson, do I need to say anything more? No. Thank you, Mr. Robinson, for North Carolina. Thank you very much. Now, we won't always have a gift like Mark Robinson. So we are establishing a democracy center in Charlotte, North Carolina. All right, now, North Carolina, they have 1.5 million black voters. And 242,000 of them are in one county. They're in Mecklenburg County, Charlotte. So 25 local black groups in Charlotte have come together and they've formed Team Unity. They want to be Mecklenburg Team Unity. I'm like, look, there's going to be one website, your North Carolina Team Unity, so get over yourselves. And they went and got their Latino brothers and sisters saying, do you want to come and be with us? We're going to be canvassing and we're going to be doing phone banks and we're going to be doing all this stuff. And we have these really cool meetings and we have fun. And they're like, yeah, count us in. So now the black voters and the Hispanic voters, that's 300,000 voters in one county, Mecklenburg. All right? My organizer for North Carolina, the reverend that I work with in 2020, is now back in the fight after an absence. I did not have him in 2022. He said, if you've got Charlotte, he said, I got the rest of the state. He is the former political action chair of the North Carolina NAACP. He cut his teeth under Reverend Dr. William Barber. And then he worked with Reverend T. Anthony Spearman. Now, the NAACP got a little crazy, and they did some totally weird stuff down there in North Carolina, and so Bradley kind of disappeared, but he's back. So we're organizing the rest of North Carolina. So I will be down in Raleigh on October 3rd with the Justice Coalition. We've got folks from the Workers' Circle going to Charlotte next Saturday and the Saturday after. So we will be knocking on doors in Charlotte. Now, I didn't work in North Carolina in 2022 because some people in North Carolina said, go away, we don't want you. But in 2020, when we did work in North Carolina with the NAACP, Mecklenburg County, 238,000 black voters, the number is only increasing. 162,000 of them, or 67%, showed up to vote. All right? We want to build on that. Now remember, in 2022, some folks told me to go away. 2022, same county, 97,000 votes. Okay? That's a big plummet from 162,000. So our goal is 180,000. All right? So we're looking. Virginia. The other party has basically pulled out of Virginia for any statewide work. Now they're sticking around for a couple of congressional races, but statewide they're like, all right, we get it. We are not winning Virginia. And I'm going, and not while there is breath in my body, you are not winning Virginia because I have to live here. So go somewhere else with this nonsense. So again, hope, joy, love, dancing, caring about our neighbors, and wanting to provide education, public education for all children, wanting everybody to be able to vote, not wanting people to have to prove they are citizens to register, which is ridiculous, because it is already against the law to vote if you're not a citizen. And then again, we have enough problems getting citizens to vote. Don't tell me non-citizens are running around making up the difference. I think not. No. So again, I really think people are beginning to pick joy. And we are going to have some young people who are still incredibly cynical, but we will have about 120 days after the election to start showing them what we talked about, what we want. We are working to make it real. So again, democracy is not about wishing. Democracy is about work, hard work. And when we work together, it is amazing what we can achieve. When people talk about the great things that were done under FDR, FDR admitted, the people of America made me do it. So in 2025, after we have that inauguration, let's make the new administration really manifest that love, that joy, that care for creation and each other that they talked about. Thank you. Thank you. All right. question. And, you know, other than having to refer to this for numbers, it spent most of its time behind my back. I'm going, yeah, I've stared at this stuff long enough that it has gotten emblazoned on my brain. All right, do we have any questions? Yes. Oh. Oh, yes.
So you mentioned Arizona, but then you didn't elaborate on Arizona?
There are 68,000 black voters in Arizona. So Arizona is predominantly the largest group of voters of color are Hispanic voters. Because we are doing so many states, we thought we will be easier to do the concentrate on the states with larger black voter populations because they are English speaking. Yes, yes. We will do some Spanish speaking in North Carolina, but our North Carolina groups, they're like, we've got this. So you just build it, we'll translate it, and we got this. So they're good. And our partners in Texas are the Hispanic organizations. So they're like, we need you to get the black voters. We got the Hispanic voters. We're good. Yeah.
Hi, it's so wonderful to see you in 3 dimensions. I've seen you. My name is Holly. I've seen you on so many Zooms. It's just, I can't even believe it. You're such a rock star. I wonder if you could talk about the effect that Kamala has had on the 7+ states on your work recently.
I've been working on turning out the black vote professionally since 2016. And one of the things that has always been frustrating has been the D9. They talk a real good game. They do, check. This year, Black Women for Harris, and a lot of those D9 members were there, her AKA sisters, the Deltas, the Zetas. As I said, the D9 is where I wish they were starting in 2016. They are excited. Women are excited. Remember our disappointment in 2016? All right, now, 2024, woman, black, Asian. Wow. We are checking a lot of boxes. We are making up for lost time. Yeah, reproductive rights were not on the ballot. And we are saying reproductive freedom because, again, it is the freedom to choose. We need help having children. I have no ability to add any additional children. This is between a woman and her doctor. So in 2016, no one envisioned the overturning of Roe. And so, Mr. He who shall not be named, you own that. I mean, you've told us over and over again, it was me. Everybody wanted me to do it. Okay, well, you did it, and that means now you own it. Yes.
Thank you so much for your work and your presence. My question is, all the action on voter purging and voter suppression, could you speak to that and what's being done from the Republican Party and Putin and the company?
All right. I don't spend that much time worrying about Mr. Putin. We've got enough distance. but we do have to pay attention to what's going on with voter suppression, because when we originally started the organization, we said we work in voter suppressed states. Now, back in 2016, it was enough to suppress the vote by nobody bothering to call the voters and provide them with the voter information that they need. So this year, we are again providing voter information. In many more localities, we are providing rides to the polls. So many of our voters live in the rural South. Now, the rural South is not at all like states like California and New York. In the South, there is no public transportation in the rural South. It doesn't exist. So if you are poor or older and you do not drive, you have no way to get anywhere other than if you can get a friend to take you. That is also true in many of the urban areas. Yes, they have public transportation in Richmond. It brings everybody to Broad Street. Now, if what you need is not on Broad Street, well, you're out of luck, because that's the only place you're going to be able to get on public transportation. Because the privileged all have cars or credit cards. So again, low-income people don't have credit cards, so they can't book Uber or Lyft, which don't exist in rural spaces. We just got our first Uber driver in Caroline County, where I live, which is really important because my husband is now disabled and he no longer drives. So without Uber, I'm here. He would not be able to go to work. All right? The other part of voter suppression is early voting information. Alabama doesn't have early voting, but all of our other states do. Early voting information is only available on the internet. The internet does not exist in rural spaces. It's just not there. So again, when we write our postcards and everybody's got an address, not everybody has a phone number, we give people a web address and we give them a phone number. Going, everybody either has a phone or you at least know somebody with a phone. You can go knock on your neighbor's door. Hey, I couldn't pay my phone bill. Do you know where the voting is? You don't? I got a phone number. Let's call and find out. So that is why we always include the phone numbers, because we understand what the challenges are in the communities where we work. Also, I listen to what is going on with voters. Now, Virginia is a very, very progressive voting state, but they've got one very, very regressive thing left over. People who have past felony convictions, lifetime felony disenfranchisement. Virginia is now really only one of 2.5 states that still does that. Our governor is not of a progressive persuasion. He is very regressive. So when he realized, because Virginia has our own John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act, that he couldn't do anything to any of the other voters, he went after the most vulnerable population of voters, voters who had had their rights restored. And so I was hearing that 17,000 people who previously had their rights restored were being told they can't vote because they missed a parole hearing, they missed a payment, there were pending charges. Well, the felony disenfranchisement law is very specific. You must have been convicted by a Virginia court of a felony to have a new felony charge. Technical infractions do not count. So there are people that are suing for that. And it is our goal in 2025 when we replace the current governor. Well, we are working right now. We will do a new constitutional amendment getting rid of lifetime felony disenfranchisement. So we're going to just kind of totally get rid of it. And what is really important is we pass it in 2025. The governor doesn't need to sign it. It's a constitutional amendment. The governor has no standing. Now we have to pass it again in 2026. By then, Abigail Spanberger will be governor, and she will bring in a much bigger majority, so we will pass it even more easily. So Virginia will finally be rid of this law that has been on our books since 1902. Yeah. Oh, yeah, here come the questions. Loving this.
I'm wondering about, of those states, how many of them have mail-in voting? And do you trust that the mail is going to be on time? And then the other thing is about cards from California. How do people in the rural states feel about getting a postcard from California?
All right, I'm going to do the cards from California question first. In 2017, we were calling the great state of Alabama, and we were the only non-Alabama group making calls into Alabama, and worse yet, we were calling into the Alabama Black Belt. Now, I'd originally talked to Doug Jones about running phone banks into Alabama, and Doug Jones said, I don't want anybody that doesn't have an Alabama accent calling anybody in Alabama. And I was like, well, you're not elected anything. Let me call the ex-governor. So I called Governor Don Siegelman, who said, we need all the help you can get, please. All right, now, here's an Alabama story for you. I work with the president of the Alabama NAACP, a gentleman by the name of Bernard Simulton. And he accompanied an elderly aunt to church at least once a month. So they're at church, and he's getting a cup of tea, and the elder church ladies are gathered around. And all of a sudden, he hears his aunt say, did you get a phone call from the white people? What? What? Have the white people called you? And he goes over, and now they're all talking about it. When black voters in the South get a phone call, a postcard, or any kind of communication, and they recognize it to be outside their community. I want you to think about this. Imagine there's a community dance. Everybody knows where the dance is, and everybody knows when the dance is. There are certain people who know they are not welcome. You are extending the invitation to the dance, and the dance is democracy. You are granting permission. This is meant for you. Please come join us. That's why it's called Reclaim Our Vote and not Reclaim Their Vote. Because it's all of us together.
Thank you for being here. I was wondering if you'd speak a little bit more about the authority, what's legal and not, of the Georgia voting board that has come down with 2 decisions in the last week. Yeah.
All right, and I forgot to deal with vote by mail. I don't like vote by mail. It's hard. It is much harder than voting in person. You have to follow all the directions, remember to sign it. Different states have different rules. In North Carolina, you have to get 2 witness signatures, and they have no drop boxes. Yeah, right. Ugh. All right, in Georgia, yes, they have drop boxes, but mail delivery sucks in Atlanta. in Virginia, the Virginia registrars came out and held a press conference. And they said, if you are going to vote by mail, and under their breath they quietly muttered, please don't, but if you are going to vote by mail, please do not mail your ballot bags. We may not see it until December. So we have drop boxes in Virginia. Now, the Virginia Voters Bill of Rights says we will have one drop box for every 50,000 voters in a county. Now, because people were throwing burning materials down the drop boxes, we now tell people we lock the drop boxes after hours, and they are only available while the voting location is open. Now, Texas, the governor of Texas said, oh, I can't get rid of drop boxes. Okay, but I can control the number of drop boxes. So he said every Texas county will have one drop box. Harris County has 1.4 million registered voters, and they got one drop box. So that is my feeling about vote by mail. If you are confined and you have absolutely no ability to vote other than by mail, okay. Oh, and in North Carolina, your vote by mail ballot can only be delivered by the voter themselves or a family member, mother, father, sister, brother, son, daughter. And that's it. So I'm like, is there somebody checking my relationship to who I'm like bringing in the vote? And they're like, yes, there is. Oh, okay. All right, I'll do that, and then I'll also talk about yours. All right, now, in North Carolina, we really are pushing voters to register to vote early, because if it turns out there is a problem with their registration, and there are vigilantes in North Carolina and Georgia who are deregistering people, they are going to the boards of elections and they are saying, these people are not valid and they should not be on your voter rolls. And if they are in a friendly county, then people take them off the voter rolls, and they are not notified, okay? In Georgia, they created a website to cancel your voter registration that looks exactly like the website where you would go to check your voter registration. So unless you read the button very, very carefully, people were self-canceling their own registrations. All right, now, in North Carolina, you can register and vote same day during early voting. Okay, you can't do it on election day. So we want everybody to go during early voting so that if you have been deregistered and you are not aware, you can fix it right then and there. Georgia does not have same-day voter registration. Now in Virginia, we have 45 days of early voting. Nobody needs 45 days of early voting. We have same-day registration during the 45 days of early voting and on election day. So in Virginia, there is absolutely no excuse not to vote. What was your question?
I asked you the actual legal authority.
Oh, legal authority in Georgia. Okay, now, the Georgia Board of Elections has overstepped their bounds because they are saying they're going to hand count the paper ballots after the counties submit their totals. That is illegal. They are not supposed to be able to do that. The governor was like, I don't think they can do that. So we are waiting for Raffensperger to sue. Otherwise, there are 3 organizations in Georgia that are getting ready to, they have the lawsuit ready. It's just if the governor sues or Raffensperger, they figure that's better than a third-party group suing. So That is probably the main thing that comes down from that. Alabama, Florida, and Texas are being remarkably good, or at least nobody has leaked what their secret plans and schemes are. All right, so we haven't heard anything else from them. That is part of the certification issue. And again, they have said that the counties are in charge of certifying the county, and to have the state go back and say, we're going to recount and not certify, no, that's not legal. That is not legal. Under Georgia rules. But again, remember, the people who make the rules suddenly can freely decide, well, that's not what we meant. What we really meant was if it was on a day of the week that was an odd-numbered day in an even-numbered year that was part of the 21st century, then, I mean, and they literally are hanging upside down by their toes to come up with these rulings.
Thank you for all the great work you're doing, you and your team. We all tend to focus on the top of the ticket. That's usually what I hear over and over. What about, can you speak to the efforts down ballot? Because we have the 2 and the 6-year seats and all the other seats down ballot.
Well, we only focus on congressional races. So we are focusing on U.S. House. We do know that most people are aware there's a presidential race going on, because you cannot get away from your television or your radio without hearing about it. But they have drowned out the congressional races and the gubernatorial races and everything else. So at Center for Common Ground, our phone banks, we don't focus on candidates, we focus on issues, why people are voting, and we refer them to tools that let them know who are all the people on their ballot. Now, here's another form of voter suppression. In Mecklenburg County, North Carolina, there are 35 offices on their ballot. Who has time to vote for 35 offices? Okay, you've got, of course, president, they've got U.S. House, they've got governor, lieutenant governor, attorney general, they've got Supreme Court justice, and then they've got commissioners, labor commissioner, agricultural commission, soil and water board, just every insurance commissioner, every kind of commissioner that there are. And who knew there could be so many judges in any one county? And then they've got about 12 judges. Alabama has 24 races on their ballot. Virginia, we have 3. President, U.S. Senate, and U.S. Congress. Our state offices are going to be next year. So we have the smallest ballot in the country. So, yes. Well, yes. Now, if you haven't already heard about it, looked at it, used it, seen it, we tell all of the people that we talk to on postcards, texting, phone banks. We tell them about ActiVote. cfcg.news/ActiVote. Every elected person at your address, from, I could say, the White House to the outhouse, from the president all the way down to your county, and then who is on your ballot, what they're running for, their website, all their social media, and if you have judges, who's running for judges. So every office on your ballot, if you've got ballot initiatives, we explain what the heck they mean. All right, so I see your dear pastor is standing, so, that means
Yeah, I think
that,
we're at about our time.
Yes.
Does somebody want to, Carrie, do you want to talk about the next part of it? the ask.
Oh, I have so much fun with you today. And again, you are my family. I love you all. If there's anybody that didn't get a hug, I owe you a hug.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Carrie Wheaton. So I'm the Sonoma County coordinator for Andrea's wonderful effort. So I had a whole intro and a lot of thank yous planned, but we're out of time. So we have some postcard packets over here. This wonderful congregation already writes postcards, so every week they gather and write them, and also a few other congregations, a couple of synagogues, a couple of other churches in the area. So it's a wonderful program for faith communities because we're nonpartisan and it all works out. And we're also non-stupid. As E.C. Rents, one of our Alabama guys says, we may be nonpartisan, but we're also non-stupid. So we have these little flyers that went out. In case anyone wants to donate online, there's a QR code you can scan. Or I believe Vicki and Monica are going to run around with baskets. This is no pressure to do anything that's uncomfortable for you. But these, we put out our own money to buy stamps and make these packets. So if you'd like to buy a packet, we have a bunch today. We have some Florida, we have some Virginia, we have some North Carolina. Now Florida's a later campaign, so I would stress getting these earlier campaigns done by the end of September, maybe the 1st or 2nd of October. Yeah, I think we're all right with that. But after that, we're going to concentrate. So I'm sorry, the earlier campaigns are Georgia, North Carolina, Virginia, and Arizona's already done. We assigned those all. And then the later ones are Florida, Alabama, South Carolina, and Texas. And we did all our Texas, so we just got a bunch more data. And Texas are women only, and Florida are women only. So, and if anyone is interested in just being in touch and reaching me later, I have cards, or if you go to the website and just type in your zip code, it matches you up with a regional organizer, and this is true for your friends all around the country. All they have to do is go to centerforcommonground.org/postcards or postcarding, either way, we'll get you there. And there's a little zip code organizer lookup so they can get in touch with their regional organizer. And I guess that's about it. I think, yeah, these guys are going to come around with baskets, and we have these flyers, and thank you so much.
You're so welcome.
Much to this beautiful
And let's thank Carrie for
church.
being our local organizer.
Well, there's a bunch of us, but and we have a wonderful, wonderful team here. And I just wanted to mention that the Culberson family, that we had 2020 in our house, we hosted phone banking, and the Culbersons were making calls to Mississippi. And Carl, who is no longer with us in this mortal plane, had this wonderful experience with 90-something-year-old woman in Mississippi. And if anyone wants to hear that story, we can talk a little later. But and also our dear, dear departed Gloria Beeler, who was the queen of postcard packet making in Sonoma County. See how many people know her. And we tragically lost her a year ago. Her wonderful daughter is here today. And so I just want to dedicate this to Gloria and Carl, and thank them both. And Gloria was a force of nature and dear, beautiful person, such a loving, giving person. And she just made these packets all day. She was just a force. So thank you, and thank you to the church so much.
You're welcome. And one more thank you to Andrea Miller for being with us today. Thank you all for coming.